Hello, in this video we will deal with the fifth story of Abraham, one of the most critically important topics in Islam. We will compare stories of the rejection of Ishmael. Let's read from the Torah, Genesis 21. The Lord visited Sarah, and Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son. Abraham called the name of his son Isaac. And the child grew, and he was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on a day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian laughing. So she said to Abraham, "Cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac." And the thing was very displeasing to Abraham on account of his son. But God said to Abraham, "Be not displeased because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you. For through Isaac shall your offspring be named, and I will make a nation of the son of slave woman also, because he is your offspring." So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Then the water in the skin was gone. She put the child under one of the bushes. And God heard the voice of the boy, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the boy. Lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hand, and I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became an expert with the bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. Now let's read from the Qur'an, Surah 2. "And remember when we made the house, Gaba at Mecca, a place of resort for mankind, a place of safety. And take your people to the Magam, place of Abraham, or the stone on which Abraham stood while he was building the Gaba, as a place of prayer. And we commanded Abraham and Ishmael that they should purify my house, the Kaaba at Mecca, for those who are circumambulating it, or saying, or bowing, or prostrating themselves there in prayer. And remember then Abraham said, My Lord, make this city Mecca a place of security and provide its people with the fruits, such of them as believe in Allah and the last day. And remember then Abraham and his son Ishmael were raising the foundation of the house, the Kaaba at Mecca, saying, Our Lord, accept this service from us. Verily you are, O Hearer, the All-Knower. O Lord, send amongst them a messenger of their own. And indeed Allah answered their invocation by sending Muhammad, who shall recite unto them your verses and instruct them in the book, this Qur'an, and al-Hikmah, full knowledge of Islamic law and jurisprudence, or wisdom, or prophethood, and purify them. Verily you are the Almighty, the All-Wise. Then his Lord said to him, Submit, be a Muslim. He said, I have submitted myself as a Muslim to the Lord of Alamin, mankind, jinn, and all that exist. Let's compare the stories as recorded in both books. 1. According to the Torah, Abraham was commanded by God to banish Hagar and Ishmael after Isaac was born, because Ishmael was not the son of God's promise, as Isaac was, and because Ishmael mocked Isaac. The Quran suggests that Isaac was born after Hagar and Ishmael had left. In the Hadith Sahih Bukhari, the eviction story explains that Hagar was expelled while Ishmael was yet an infant. In Islam, the expulsion of Ishmael had nothing to do with Isaac. Yet in the Torah, Ishmael's mockery of Isaac and the fact that Ishmael was the illicit son of the handmaid and not of the legitimate wife, and the one designed for the promise, were the actual reasons. 2. The Torah notes that then Hagar and her son left the camp. Ishmael was a teenager. In the Quran and the Hadith, Ishmael was an infant. 3. In the Bible, Abraham received the command from God the previous evening to send Hagar and Ishmael away. Hagar and Ishmael were unaccompanied when we left the camp. While the Quran is silent, the Hadith mentions that Abraham accompanied Hagar and Ishmael to the region of Mecca and left them there. So, the timeline in the Torah states that between the command of God to the time of separation between Abraham and Hagar, there passed only one night. But the Quran and Hadith insists that Abraham traveled almost 1350 kilometers from Canaan to Mecca, which will take him almost a month. 4. According to the Torah, Abraham stayed with his wife and son Isaac, but according to the Hadith and the Quran, he traveled with Hagar and Ishmael to the empty spot in the desert. 5. According to the Torah, Abraham gave Hagar 1 skin of water and some bread. Then Hagar departed from the area of Gerar, southeast of Gaza. She managed to reach the wilderness of Beersheba, and her water supply was depleted. The distance between Gerar and Beersheba is about 50 kilometers, a journey of 2-3 days, just enough to drain about 10 liters of water that Hagar would be able to carry on her shoulder. It is in Beersheba that the angel of the Lord showed her a well after she cried out to God in desperation. According to the Quran and the Hadith, the angel dug the well for Hagar in Mecca, and it called Zamzam. The Torah and the Quran differ greatly in the distance she traveled and the location and the name of the well. 6. The Torah discloses that Ishmael lived in Paran and his mother obtained his wife from Egypt. Hence, his sons were 75% Egyptian by blood through Hagar and his wife, and 25% Chaldean through Abraham. The Quran is silent on that matter, but since Ishmael lived in Mecca all his life, he married another woman twice. The Hadith clarifies this. Therefore, his sons would have been 50% Arabs by blood. This contradicts the Torah's account. 7. According to the Quran, Abraham visited Ishmael in Mecca and they built the famous Gaba together. According to the Torah, Abraham never saw his son again after he left, and he never traveled even once to Mecca. Apart from a short visit to Egypt, Abraham always dwelt in Canaan and never visited Arabia. Let us summarize. The stories of expulsion of Hagar and Ishmael in both books have absolutely nothing in common, except the fact that they were evicted. Massive differences include 1. The age of Ishmael, teenager versus infant. 2. The age of Isaac at the time of the event, 3 to 5 years old versus not born yet. 3. The place where Hagar left Abraham, Gerar versus Mecca. 4. The travel distance, 50 kilometers versus 1350. 5. The place where Hagar found the well, Beersheba versus Mecca. 6. The construction of the Kaaba never happened versus it was built by Abraham with the help of Ishmael as an adult. 7. The place of Ishmael dwelling, Paran, east of Canaan versus Mecca in Hijaz. 8. The nationality of Ishmael's wife, Egyptian versus Arab. All these differences make the Tanakh and the Quran not only incompatible, but leads to serious doubts concerning the claim of Muhammad and his bloodline connection to Ishmael, and the connection between Abraham's faith to Islam. Muhammad claimed that Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba and thus linked the pagan temple in Mecca to the Abrahamic religion of monotheism. The Torah contradicts that unusual architectural taste of Abraham, who always built altars of uncut stone to offer his sacrifice to Yahweh. It was never empty rooms with a stone in a corner to which one would bow down. We can deduce that if the Torah's account is correct, then Islam has nothing to do with Abraham, Muhammad had nothing to do with Ishmael, and Arabs of Quraysh tribe of Mecca had nothing to do with the Ishmaelites, and the Kaaba was initially built by pagans to store idols inside as a simple temple. The author of the Quran insists that Abraham was asking Allah to send a messenger, Muhammad, in the future to Arabs with the book, the Qur'an, and the set of laws, Sharia. Such a bold statement looks pale and fragile as we read the story of Abraham in the Torah, where there is no such stuff ever mentioned. Just one line where God is promising to Abraham, "For through Isaac shall your offspring be named," makes all Islamic claims untrue. As we see, the brief but highly informative Torah story of the expulsion of Hagar and Ishmael tests the Quran and finds its stories unreliable, and exposes the author of the Quran to be Muhammad himself, who promoted his new religion among ignorant Arabs, as if it has been rooted in the religion of Abraham. In the next video, I will continue discussing differences between the Jewish scriptures and the Quran in the story of Abraham. Thank you for watching. See you next time.